Hello viewers, welcome to Ekam Academy. Today we are going to discuss about what China wants to do with respect to Arunachal Pradesh, why it is claiming that Arunachal Pradesh is part of China and how India has responded to this, and we'll also look into what is the boundary dispute between India and China, in what aspects it is very disputed and in what areas it is disputed, and we'll also know what happened in the recent times, why China is so asserting its dominance in India, not only in India with respect to Taiwan, be it with respect to South China Sea and all. So what is actually the plan of China? So these are the things which we'll be discussing in the video. So in the recent times, okay, so China has said, like 2-3 days back itself, China has given a list of standardized names. Standardized names means here it has given names for different parts of the Arunachal Pradesh, saying that entire Arunachal Pradesh is the Chinese territory. So here they have given names for some rivers, some lakes, some mountain pass, some areas, and also like this. So they have given names for different areas in Arunachal Pradesh in their own Mandarin language, that is in Chinese names. But will India accept to this? No, because Arunachal Pradesh is proudly Indian territory. So it is part of India, and Indian External Affairs Ministry and Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson, all these persons, they have said clearly that India always asserts sovereignty over Arunachal Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh is integral and inalienable part of mainland India. So this is what India's counterclaim with respect to China's dominance over Arunachal Pradesh. So why China is always asserting the Arunachal Pradesh claim, and we'll understand what are the states and union territories that share boundary with China, and in what aspects or in what areas we have this conflict in terms of border with China, and these things we'll know. What are the historical aspects also. So first thing we need to understand is China shares second longest boundary with India after Bangladesh. Bangladesh shares more than 4,000 plus kilometers of boundary, and here we have China with almost 3,500 kilometers boundary. So and also what are the Indian states that share boundary with China? So we have Ladakh, that is a union territory, erstwhile part of Jammu and Kashmir. Then we have Himachal Pradesh. Then we have Uttarakhand. Then Sikkim, where we have this Doklam standoff falls, right? Then we have Arunachal Pradesh, okay, Arunachal Pradesh. So these are the areas. So this is part of Ladakh. Here Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, we have, this is the middle sector or the central sector we call, okay. So this is a western sector, and in the western sector where Ladakh is the boundary, we have dispute with respect to China with respect to Aksai Chin. Now currently Aksai Chin is under Chinese control, and this was the Indian territory, and we are claiming that Aksai Chin is always integral part of India, but China is saying that Aksai Chin is part of previous Tibet and it is now under its control. Then with respect to western sector, we have dispute with respect to only this Aksai Chin. Then with respect to middle sector, which constitutes of Himachal Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand, there is no major dispute, okay. Both sides doesn't have any major disagreement with respect to the border in the middle sector. Then here is the most confronted area with respect to India-China border. So that is eastern sector we call. So you can see 1325 kilometers excluding Bhutan. So if you see this Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim part also we have, but there is no much dispute there. But with respect to Arunachal Pradesh, China is saying that entire Arunachal Pradesh is part of southern Tibet and it belongs to them. So this is what the claim they are asserting right from the historical times. So if you have seen, with respect to this, we have to know one major line that is called McMahon line. So McMahon line is the de facto boundary line with respect to eastern sector in India and China boundary disputes, okay. So this is a de facto line which is border line in the eastern sector between India and China. So another interesting thing you need to remember is this McMahon line is considered as illegal by China. They don't consider this as legal, okay. So they're not accepting to this McMahon line. Then what is India's acceptance? Is India accepting to this? Means India is also not easily accepting to this McMahon line, but we say Johnson line is correct, okay, with respect to India and China boundary. This is with respect to northern sector, where Johnson line means Johnson line, according to India, will claim this Aksai Chin as integral part of India. So that is why we say that Johnson line is the actual demarcation line or the boundary line between India and China. But what China is saying in counter to this, they say McDonald's line. So Johnson line was signed, it was a result of British India and Tibet negotiations, and this McDonald's line in 1893 says that this Aksai Chin is part of China. So they accept McDonald line as the default boundary, but we say Johnson line is the boundary. But in the eastern sector, we have McMahon line, which is a de facto boundary, but China is considering this as illegal. Why they are considering this as illegal? Because this McMahon line is out of a negotiation. It is a result of negotiations between British India and Tibet representatives in Shimla Agreement in 1913 and 1914. In 1913 and 1914, there is a Shimla Agreement that happened between British India as well as Tibetan representatives. Then what is China saying in this? As Tibetan representatives doesn't have any authority to be part of this discussions on behalf of China, so we don't consider this McMahon line as the de facto boundary, and we consider it as illegal. That is why always they're not accepting the McMahon line, and they're always trying to assert their sovereignty over Arunachal Pradesh to counter their dominance and to assert their sovereignty. But all the time we are again saying that we are not accepting those things. Okay, why again China recently became active with respect to Arunachal Pradesh? Because India has increased its developmental projects along the boundary areas. For example, if you have seen Vibrant Village program, be Sela Tunnel. If you have remembered, in the recent times, the Prime Minister has visited in the month of March itself. He visited Arunachal Pradesh and he inaugurated Sela Tunnel to faster mobilize the troops and also it provides all weather connectivity, road connectivity also, and the distance between Arunachal Pradesh and Assam also will be reduced. So when we are ramping up our infrastructure and defense capabilities, China is not happy with these things. That is why it is always trying to poke India, and it is trying to say that Arunachal Pradesh is part of India. And if you have remembered, in the previous situations also, whenever there is a visit of even External Affairs Minister or Defense Minister to Arunachal Pradesh, or Home Minister or any other minister, or even if there is a Prime Minister or President's visit, or even if there is Dalai Lama's visit also, always China is raising some objections. So these are the things which China is doing from their side. This is not only with respect to Arunachal Pradesh, be it with respect to Taiwan, the same thing they're saying, Taiwan is part of China, and with respect to South China Sea also they're saying same thing. With respect to Philippines, we have seen Second Thomas Shoal, so that is also a disputed area between not only this Spratly Islands we have, so Svalbard Shoal we have. So these are all the things which are disputed, and with many countries like Taiwan, Brunei, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines. So with all these countries, China has this dispute or territorial disputes. Okay, so in this context, Arunachal Pradesh is also being claimed by China as their territory, as part of southern Tibet. Okay, so then what is the name they have given to the Arunachal Pradesh is Zangnan. Zangnan is the name they have given to Arunachal Pradesh as part of their territory. So in this video, we will be discussing about why it is in news, what are the boundary disputes in the eastern sector with India and China have, why this renaming of places is being done by China now, and why is China giving the names to places that are in India, and what does China wants to gain from this naming of the places in Arunachal Pradesh, as well as the way forward. So this forms part of GS paper 2 in IR bilateral relations. Then if you see what happened, okay, so in the recent times, China has released a list of 30 standardized names for the places in Arunachal Pradesh. It includes various things like I discussed, mountain pass, lakes, rivers, valleys, and different things were covered under these 30 names. So this was not the first time. This was the fourth such instance in the last 4 years. It released a list of 6 standardized names in 2017. Then in 2021, it gave names for 15 places more, and then in 2023, it gave some 11 places new standardized names, and again now in 2024 it has released 13 names. Okay, so in this way China is always trying to assert its dominance over Arunachal Pradesh. But what India said Arunachal Pradesh is, has been, and always means always, past, future and present, always it will be part of our Indian territory only. We are completely asserting Arunachal Pradesh is ours. This is what the answer given by India in counter to China's response. So here if you see, this is a disputed area. So as I told you, Aksai Chin is the disputed area in the western sector. It is now under the control of China. So what is the boundary line we have with respect to this is LAC we call, okay, line of actual control. You know, line of actual control is between India and China, and we have with Pakistan LOC, line of control. Okay, this is here we have, okay, this is line of control. So these are the two main things we have to keep in mind. Then what is the border guarding force between India and China is ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police. So these are the border guarding forces between India and China. With respect to Pakistan, we have BSF, okay, Border Security Force. Do remember these things, okay. Then if you see here, again with respect to this Arunachal Pradesh, this de facto boundary line is McMahon line, which China considers as illegal. And with respect to this Tawang also, China has many interests. Tawang and Lhasa are the monasteries, okay, Buddhist monasteries. And if you know, if there is any Dalai Lama visit to these monasteries and all, China wants to say always that Tawang is integral part of Tibet, that is southern Tibet, and it is part of Arunachal Pradesh as their own territory. Then what are the border disputes, as I told you, in the eastern sector with respect to McMahon line, and it is why China is not accepting this, because in the Shimla conference, which is the main thing which has declared this McMahon line as a de facto boundary, who participated? It is British India as one party, Britishers, and another side we have Tibet, okay, so Tibetan representatives. So they said Tibetan representatives have no actual authority to participate in this, so we don't consider this McMahon line as the legal boundary line between India and China in the eastern sector. Then with respect to the dispute between India and China, as I told you, they consider Tawang as the southern part of Tibet, okay. So this is what most important thing. And you know, Arunachal Pradesh was named as Xiangnan, okay. Xiangnan is the name of Arunachal Pradesh, which was named by China. And do remember that Brahmaputra river, it is originating from the Tibet, okay. So where we call this as, what is the name of Tibet, Brahmaputra river in the Tibet region? Answer in the comment section if you know. So this Brahmaputra river enters into India, taking a U-turn at Namcha Barwa. It enters into Arunachal Pradesh. From Arunachal Pradesh, it enters into Assam, and from there it is entering into Bangladesh. There it was called as Jamuna, and on the other side we have river Ganga, which is called Padma in Bangladesh. So these Padma and Jamuna, they meet together and they form a river called Meghna. So this Meghna will drain into Bay of Bengal. Okay, so this is a course of water or river things, okay, so which you have to keep in mind. So Arunachal Pradesh, the main river we are getting from the Tibetan region is Brahmaputra river. So you know, again, India and China with respect to 1962 war, if you have seen, we have fought a war, major war with respect to China is 1962 war. In this, they have occupied entire Arunachal Pradesh, but later on they have declared unilateral ceasefire and they have withdrawn from Arunachal Pradesh. In 1962 war, they have occupied Arunachal Pradesh. Do remember things. Then all these things they say that all the time is entire Arunachal Pradesh is part of China. So we have to keep this in mind. So they're not claiming that southern part or northern part, but entire Arunachal Pradesh as their own. So what they'll get by naming these three places, as I told you, this is not the first time, fourth such list. And they previously they have also given stapled visas also, right? Stapled visas with respect to Arunachal people and all. So always it is trying to confront India with respect to Arunachal Pradesh. Then what is China, why it is giving the names? Because the first thing they wanted, whenever they wanted to exert their territorial dominance, the first thing China will do is giving names, local names, okay, to those areas. Be it, for example, in the South China Sea also they have done the same thing. So when they gave localized names, they wanted to say that it is their territory and everyone will accept it. Even China, when China says that Arunachal Pradesh is part of India, part of their own territory, US also said no, we are not accepting, and always Arunachal Pradesh is Indian territory. So this is what US also have supported India in this instance, okay. So you have to keep in mind, they consider the Xiangnan as a southern Tibet, which is Arunachal Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh as part of China, and they are releasing the maps also in that way. So then what does China get from this? Okay, so initially if they say that whenever the part of land is their own, they start with the naming process. Slowly they will try to assert territorial dominance, and in that way they wanted to get control over the land. So in this way, they wanted to assure Chinese strategy works, so that they wanted to expand their territorial expansion, and even this is with respect to foreign policy also. If you have seen, they will be using two ways. One is territorial disputes or territorial dominance is one thing they wanted to extend. Another one is through economic things. Economic things means, you know, either through Belt and Road Initiative, making the countries into the debt trap by in the name of infrastructure projects, or be in the form of CPC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is part of BRI, and string of pearls theory. And these things, no, in the recent times, that is why most of the countries have realized what is the hardship they face in case if they enter into this Belt and Road Initiative of China, and they are coming out of these projects. So this is one another thing we have to keep in mind. So China always plays either economically or politically to assert their dominance and to exert their things. Okay, so this is what we have discussed. Now, as we have discussed in the previous video about Taiwan earthquake, the question is, which of the following earthquake waves first recorded on the seismograph, which will be recorded for the first? Okay, so here it is answer primary waves, because of the name itself, they're the first ones. Okay, P waves means primary, which are the first waves to be recorded on the seismograph. These are the part of body waves. Okay, do remember this. Then what is the practice question for today? Which of the following is not the disputed area between India and China? Doklam, Galwan Valley, you have Depsang Plains, and Lipu Lake Pass. So which is the correct option? Try to answer in the comment section. Then what is the mains question given for practice? There has been a shift in India's Tibet policy. Discuss the statement in the event of increasing tensions between India and China. So with respect to Tibet, or even with respect to Taiwan, we are adhering to the one China policy, because if you have remembered, India always adhere to Panchsheel agreement. Under Panchsheel agreement, which was given by then Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the Prime Minister, there are some issues or some things which we have given, like for example, mutual non-interference in internal affairs, like there should not be any sovereign claims with respect to other territories. So non-interference in internal affairs, mutual cooperation, like this. We have some things which we have adhered all the time, but China always says, in case, for example, if you have seen with respect to Aksai Chin, it says that it is part of Xinjiang province, but we are saying that is part of Jammu and Kashmir. So in Xinjiang province, if you see, Uyghur Muslims are there, and those people are not easily living their lives in China, so they are prosecuted and all. So if you raise that issue, China says it is our internal affair. But on the other hand, if something happens in Kashmir, all the time China says that China wants to raise it. And you know, in UN Security Council and any other platform, whatever the India wants to take the resolutions to point out or to corner Pakistan, all those are getting support from China. So what they wanted to give the message, okay, so when it is becoming the internal matter of China, why don't you consider that it is internal matter of India? So you should not discuss about Article 370, you should not discuss about Jammu and Kashmir, right? So these are the things which China always wants to provoke neighboring countries by to expand its territorial ambitions. Okay, so this is what you have to discuss in the answer. Then, as we have reached the end of the video, today we have discussed about what happened with respect to India and China, border dispute, why we have this border dispute in the eastern sector, what is the difference between McMahon line, Johnson line and McDonnell line we have seen, and we also have seen why China is trying to give new set of names for Arunachal Pradesh, what are its claims with respect to Arunachal, and also what is India's stand in this regard. So these are the aspects which we have discussed today. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.